Hello, and welcome to the BYU Library Family History webinar. We're glad you could join us today. I'm Olivia Tuller, and I'll be your host for this webinar. If you have technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box and I can address your concerns. You are welcome to use the chat box during the webinar for comments, insights, and questions. However, all questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Our next webinar is on December 15th with Michael Strauss. He will be giving a presentation about the 1915 Spanish influenza. If you would like to access a previous webinar, please visit our webinar index on our website or search on our YouTube channel. All of our webinars are recorded and uploaded by the following Monday for your convenience. We also post links to recordings and other updates on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. For today's webinar, we are pleased to hear from Kathryn Grant, who will be giving a presentation on getting to know the new homepage and person page on FamilySearch.org. Before we begin, here's a little bit about Kathryn. After years on the sidelines, Kathryn began doing family history. Somewhat to her surprise, she discovered that she loved it. Her specialty is helping new family historians find success and maybe even avoid some of the mistakes she's made. Kathryn teaches Sunday classes at the BYU Family History Library and presents at other family history events. Her column on family history ran in the Nauvoo Times for about a year and is still available online. In addition, she's a regular contributor to the Family Search blog. Kathryn works as a technical writer and instructional designer with a focus on usability and process improvement. Her current work assignment includes developing training used on mobile devices. Besides family history, she loves uplifting music, thought-provoking books, and Christmas time. And if Kathryn is ready, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to her.
Great, Olivia, thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you guys should be able to see the slide deck now. And welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar today. We've got a really exciting topic. Some very cool things are happening on FamilySearch.org. So today we are going to talk about some new features on the homepage and on the person page. So here's a look at what we'll be covering in the webinar today. First of all, I should point out that I'm not doing an exhaustive review of every single new feature on the two new pages, because we'd be here till like 10 tonight. Well, depending on your time zone, we'd be here for hours and hours. There's just too much cool stuff. So I tried to pick the high points that I think most users would be interested in. So on the home page, we're going to talk about the new tab setup, about the feed, and about how you can now have friends on your Family Search homepage. And then for the person page, we're actually going to go into a bit more detail. We'll talk about the new banner and tabs, about the About page. We'll look at the layout on the Details page. We'll look at how editing has changed slightly, and then we'll talk about the brief life history and alert notes, which have a little bit of a surprising connection. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some very cool new features on the Memories tab. So what is new on the home page? Well, your first question might be, how do I get to the home page? Like when you say home page, what exactly are you talking about? Well, the home page is kind of the root page or the main page of any website. And on FamilySearch.org, the way that you get to it is by going to FamilySearch.org with nothing after it, like no /tree/search or anything. It's just FamilySearch.org. Or on any page on the FamilySearch.org website, you can click the Family Search logo and it will take you to the home page. This is kind of a standard practice on websites. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with that, very often, if you click the logo in a website banner, it will take you back to the home page. And that is the case on FamilySearch.org. So when you go to that page, if you have not already visited the new home page, you're going to see a button, a toggle actually at the top in the upper right-hand corner that lets you go back and forth between the new home page and the old one. So right now I'm on the old one, but I am going to click the toggle so that I can go to the new one. And when I go to the new one, I'm going to see something like this. Your view may be slightly different, but it will be similar in the way that it's laid out in two columns and so forth. The things that I wanted to point out that are new and exciting on this page, First of all, we've got a tabbed interface, which we didn't have before. So just popping back to the old screen, there's nothing up here, no tabs, no submenu for navigating. But on the new page, you can easily go to these different sections of the page. Now, here is also an exciting thing is that the home page, the new home page has a feed, which is similar to other social media sites where you can post information about your family and you can also see information posted by other people. So let's take a look at how it would work to create a post on the new home page. So when you click, and I'll have to say too, I meant to say this earlier, sorry. I actually don't understand why the feed is separated here by like it's not exactly an advertisement, but you know what I mean. It's some little um, thing to catch your interest on a topic. So you make posts up here, but they show up below the little thing there. So they're separated. And I'm not sure why that is, but just wanted to make you aware of that. So when you click the post field, when you click inside it, you're actually going to get a pop-up on the screen that will allow you to create that post. You can create it with or without images. If you want to add an image, you just click the image button down here. The other thing you might have noticed is that you've got a drop down under your name that determines who gets to see your post. It defaults to your friends, and we're going to be talking about how you add friends in a few minutes. But when you click the drop down, you actually get a pop-up screen with all these different options. So you can actually choose what audience is going to see your post. You can set it to public where everybody will see it, or rather, I should say that everybody can see it. In other words, it's not like people don't have to sign in if you do a public share. You can set it to be visible only to yourself. And that could possibly be helpful if you wanted to see what something would look like before sharing it with everybody. Like we said, the default is to your friends, but also you can create lists out of your friends. So you see here, I've created a list for just my extended family, and then also a list that just has my sisters on it. So if I want to, I can also share a post with either of those lists. And it's worth pointing out here that all of these choices, you can only choose one on this screen. So for instance, I can't choose to share both with my extended family and with my sisters. I have to choose just one of these options. So this is an example of creating a post. My brother won an award for hiking, and so I've just put a little description in here of the award, and then I clicked the image button to add an image that was taken at the time he was given the award. And then I click the submit button, and the post shows up in the post section near the underneath that little kind of advertisement thing that we looked at. So you can see that it's very similar to other social media sites. Once you've posted something, people can like it, people can comment on it. So this is just a great way for you to share information with your family and friends, information about family history. So the question now comes up, well, what exactly are friends and how do we add them? Well, friends are defined on Family Search as other Family Search users, which is pretty typical, right? On Facebook, you can only friend people who are on Facebook, and other platforms, it's the same thing. So when you have not, I was going to say, when you don't have any friends, that sounds terrible. No, when you have not added any friends on Family Search yet, then you will see a screen that looks like this when you go over to the Friends tab. So you'll have two options here. You'll be able to search for friends, other Family Search users, and I need to make a little caveat about that. When you click this button, you can only find users who have set their contact information to public, and that is in settings. Now, some of you are saying, what on earth are you talking about? I did not even know there was a place to set a public settings. That was my reaction when I first heard of this. I'm like, public? I didn't even know there was such a thing. So for those of you who are in the same boat as I was, this is how you do that. You know how when you're looking at any family search page, once you've logged in, your name appears in the upper right-hand corner. And when you click your name, you get a little drop-down menu. One of the options on that drop-down menu is settings. So click settings and you will get taken to a screen that looks something like this. If you click profile, and I believe that's generally the default, but if you end up on one of these other tabs, just click profile. And then down at the bottom, you will see a section for contact and you will see whether it's set to public or not set to public. So if you want to be findable in that search, you would need to set this to public. And if somebody else, if you don't find someone you're looking for, you could ask them to set it to public. But sometimes people don't want to set it to public, and that's why Family Search gives us the option. So there's another way that you can connect with friends. If it doesn't work to use the find button, you can click share link. And what that does is generate a link that you can share with other people that will enable them to connect with you as a friend. The caveat there is that they do need to have a Family Search account. You can't just connect with a random person who's not on Family Search. When you have added some friends, they are going to show up in this right-hand big box on the Friends tab. Notice that the Friends tab also has the same options for adding additional friends, and they work exactly the same as they did on that initial screen. You can either search for users who have made their information public, or you can generate a link. Okay, what about lists? I think this is a really cool feature because you may have groups of friends or family that you communicate with frequently, and so you want to easily be able to share things just with them. Well, as you would imagine, it's kind of self-evident, right? If you want to create a list, you would just click Add List. And when you do that, a separate little a panel, I guess you could call it, opens up on the right side of the Friends tab. And it's pretty straightforward. You just give your list a name, like I have one called Sisters, and then you search for friends that you want to be on your list. You do have to add somebody as a friend before you can add them to a list. So to add friends to the list, you've got two options. You can either search among your friends that you've already added, and so they will show up down here. And as you type something in here, like suppose I wanted to add my sister Suzanne, and I didn't see her here on the list. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out is the list doesn't look blurry on Family Search. I blurred this to protect the privacy of my friends because I didn't have their permission to share their information. But for you, your friends will show up nice and clear with the photo and with the username. So to suppose I wanted to find my sister Suzanne, I would just type Suzanne in here, and then the list would automatically be filtered to anybody with the name of Suzanne. And then I would just click the plus button here to add them to the list that I have defined. The other thing, you can actually just scroll through the people, and anybody you see that you want to add, you can just click that plus sign next to their name. So once you have designated everybody that you want to be, every friend that you want to be part of that list, you click add, and lo and behold, you've created a new list. And it will show up over here under the name that you defined for the list name. And then anytime that you want to select that list to send people to, send a post to or send information to, that list will show up on that screen that we looked at earlier that lets you pick your audience for your post. Okay, family groups shows up at the bottom. And because I already covered this in another webinar in some detail, I'm not going to go into it here. But suffice it to say that this option, family groups, allows users to communicate with each other through family search messaging. So you set up a family group, and then anybody in that group can communicate with anybody else in the group through family search messaging. So that's all the detail we're going to talk about today. But if you'd like more information, look for the article entitled "What are Family Groups?" in the Family Search Help Center. Okay, that was it for the high points on the new homepage. Let's talk now about the exciting new features on the new person page. So again, first question that's probably going to come up to people is, how do I get to the new person page? Well, if you're on the old one at the top, you're going to see a link that will let you go to that page. The other day, a friend of mine did not see this message, and we think we figured out. I actually don't think I heard back from her on whether this solved the problem. So Andrea, if you're on this call, please put a note in the chat. But we think that clearing cookies would have probably solved this problem. So if you don't see this message and you're on the home page, try clearing your browser cookies or try another browser. So to go to the new person page, of course, you just click go to new person page and you will be taken to a page that looks something like this. Notice that it looks very different from the old page, but don't panic. The old layout is still available. This new view is called the About page, and it is the default. And so the first time that you try the new person page, you're going to be taken to this About view, this About page. But Family Tree will remember what tab or what page you were on the last time you visited a person page. So I spend a lot of time on the details page. So almost every time that I bring up a person page, I get taken to details. So that's a good thing. It will remember the page that you were on last time and just take you automatically to that section of the person page. So let's compare the top of the old person page with the top of the new person page. So this is what the old one looks like. This is probably very familiar to a lot of you. This is what the new one looks like. And let's look at the pretty minor differences, but they're worth commenting on. So the first thing is that the menu options are the same here, but they're in a slightly different order. So notice that View My Relationship used to be on the end. Now it's in the middle and it's just View Relationship, but it functions exactly the same way. And the Follow option has been moved to the end. Other than that, the tabs are almost identical with a few exceptions that we're going to cover. So details is still there, sources is still there, collaborate is still there, memories is still there, and they all function quite similarly on the new page to the way that they did in the old page. The changes worth calling out, we've already talked about one, the About page is new. Then also you'll notice that the timeline is not an option anymore on the new page or on this set of tabs on the new page, and that is because it's been moved to the About page, and we'll take a look at that. So let's talk about the About page. This trips people up a lot because it's a really cool view. It's very like browsing friendly. It's very engaging, but sometimes people will see mistakes on it and they will want to fix it. And then they'll try to fix it and not be able to. Well, that's because almost all the information on this page comes from other tabs on the person page. So for example, photos and memories come from memories. Sources, that comes from sources. The exceptions are name meanings come from dictionaries of name meanings, which I think is really cool because I love to learn about the meanings behind names. And then the brief life history is also an exception to that rule that is a little bit not complicated, but it's got some nuances that we're going to be talking about later. But for these other sections, if you want to make changes, you actually need to go to the relevant tab, like to details or to sources or to memories, and you make the changes there, and then those changes will show up here on the About page. Okay, let's talk about the brief life history. The reason I put dots around a dotted line around it where the others were solid is because this one doesn't quite function like the others. The initial brief life history on this page is computer generated based on the vital information on the details tab. So on the details tab, I have Elsie's birthplace and birth date. and her dad's name and her mom's name. So the computer algorithm just takes that information and puts it into a paragraph. It's actually really cool, but it's definitely computer generated, not written by a human. And it has to be, if you want to change, like suppose you came in here and said, wait a second, Elizabeth Ellen wasn't 33, she was 32. Well, you'd have to go to Elizabeth's page and you'd have to change her age so that it was accurate, or actually her birth year, birth date, birth year, whatever was on her page, so that this date would show up accurately on her daughter's page. So the little nuance that I wanted to mention about this is that initially all these brief life histories are computer generated, but what if you didn't want it to be computer generated? You can override it with the brief life history that shows up on the details page. And we're going to be talking in a few minutes about how you can do that. But for now, I want to finish the changes, the overarching changes to the About page. The other one is the timeline, which is now not a separate tab, but shows up on the About page. And I've got to tell you, I love the timeline. It is so cool to be able to see the different events in your ancestor's life. And you can see them on a map. So I love this to click View with Map, and you get a view that is very much like the old timeline view. So what I love about this, there's a number of things that I think are just exciting and really help you connect with your ancestors. One is that you can zoom in, and this view uses Google Maps. So you've got all the features that are available to you on Google Maps. And one time I zoomed in on the church where my ancestor was christened. And I was actually able to go into Street View and see that church. I just about started crying. Like it was just a beautiful connecting experience to see an actual place where my ancestor would have lived and had something important happen. That christening would have been important to that family. What I wanted to show here, though, is that it's also cool to zoom out. So I zoomed out so that I could both see England and the United States, because my second great grandfather, Joseph Aminadab Quibell, was born in England, but later ended up emigrating to the United States, stayed in New York for a while, and ultimately ended up in Utah. You might be asking, how did you get these dotted lines to show up? Well, at the bottom, there was a button that said show route. And I just clicked that and it showed the route that my second great grandfather had taken. Now, obviously, if I want not show the route, I would just click hide route. Another thing that I wanted to point out on this map, I don't know how easy it is for you to see. It will depend on the size of your screen, but these little black circles here have numbers in them. So this one right here has a number 8. We have zoomed in so far. No, we have zoomed out so far that we can't see the separate map markers. So the map is just telling me, hey, there's actually 8 events here, but you're not going to be able to see them all separately because you're zoomed out too far. Well, zooming in, obviously very easy on Google Maps. You just click the plus button and it will magnify that screen until it's big enough for you to see those separate map markers. So you can kind of see whatever view you want to see and adjust it as needed. And I just love how this is such a great way to connect with people that you love or people that you're trying to get to know on your family tree. Okay, I need to take a little drink here. Excuse me, drink of water. Okay, let's talk now about how the details page layout has changed. So I've taken a screenshot of the old layout. It's probably going to be super familiar to most of you, but I collapsed all the sections for the sake of showing the sections and the order in which they appear. So in the old one, you had the life sketch at the top, followed by vitals, followed by other information, etc., etc. On the right side, you had research help, search records, so on and so forth. That was the old page. Now on the new page, It's a lot the same, but there are some really cool new features. One thing I like is that the font is a little bit bigger, so that's easier to read in a lot of cases. You'll notice that the menu options are capitalized instead of initial mixed case, but there are also some new sections. So we now have a section called Other Relationships, and we'll be showing that in a second. And there's a new section called Notes. Well, it's not exactly a new section. It's showing up new on the details page, but it's the Notes section from the Collaborate tab. So it's just a different way for you to see it, an additional way for you to see those notes. Then the brief life history, much to my chagrin, has been moved to the bottom of the page. I have to admit, oh, and it got renamed. It used to be Life Sketch. Now it's Brief Life History, which is kind of a more descriptive name. So that's cool. But why put it at the bottom of the page? Because it introduces the person. So to me, it makes much more sense to put it at the top. Well, a lot of other users felt the same way. So kudos to Family Search. They have actually made a way to customize your page so that for those of you who do want this at the top, or you want the sections in any other order, these sections here on the left-hand side, you can change the order of the sections. So we'll also be looking at that. Finally, if you are a person who likes to print things off, and I know a lot of people are digital, but a lot of people are like, I've got to have a family group sheet to see in my hand, or I've got to print out my fan chart. If that's you, print has not been deleted, it's just been folded in under tools. Other relationships. Let's talk about this new section on the new page. So, an other relationship is basically a non family relationship. There's one exception that we'll look at, but for the most part, it refers to non family relationships. So, to add an other relationship, you scroll to that section, click Add Other Relationships, and you get this pop up. And in case this is too small to read, depending on your screen, I'll just go through the options. These are the current types of other relationships you can add: apprenticeship, employment, enslavement, sadly, godparent, household, neighbor. And then the bottom one is relative. But I don't know why you would choose relative as an other relationship when you can also already designate relatives by like a father and son. Well, you put the son connected to the father on the person page. And so why would you designate them as a relative? So anyway, I guess I could see maybe if you knew someone was a relative, but you didn't know how, then maybe maybe that's a possible use for relative. But in any event, this pop-up allows you to designate a type of other relationship and designate the person in family tree to whom that relationship applies. So suppose that I wanted to add my former boss in here. Maybe he has passed away. Actually, I do have a boss who has passed away, so I could do that. What I would do is I would go in here and I would choose employment, and then I would look up my boss in Family Tree, and I would add him on this other relationship screen, and then he would be designated as having an employment relationship with me. So that's kind of cool. It just makes our records in Family Search richer in that it gives more information about what happened in a person's life. So when you're done selecting the relationship and selecting the person to whom that relationship applies, then you click Save, and the relationship will show up here in the Other Relationships box. Okay, let's talk about customizing the layout for those of you who would really like the brief life history to be at the top or any other changes. And notice that the reordering only applies to these sections on the left. You cannot reorder the sections on the right. So how do you do it? Well, over on the right-hand side of the page in the Tools section, the first option is now My Layout Settings. So when you click that, you get a little panel that looks like this. Section order is in the lower half of the layout settings. And each of these items has a handle. And so you just take your mouse and you drag that section into whatever order you want. So you can see that I've dragged the brief life history up to the top. I did want to comment too that you now have the option to display vitals and other information sections in either a double column layout or a single column layout. The old one was single column, so a lot of people are used to that and may prefer it. I actually like the double column because it shows the information in a more compact space, so you don't have to scroll so far. But again, kudos to Family Search for giving us our choice. So if you find that you really don't like that double column layout, come in here and switch it back to single. Okay, this was another one that really surprised me, but it's another example of how responsive Family Search has been to user requests. So one of the managers at Family Search told me that they had been getting a lot of requests to be able to view information without editing it, without going into edit mode. And so they've done that. So if you just want to see the information and not worry about accidentally changing it, you actually click on the item. So you click on the name or you click on the birth information. When you do that, you are taken to a non-editable screen that just shows the information. So if I click on this, Elsie, I can't change that. It does show the tagged sources still, which is the same thing as it used to do. And if you get into this screen and you go, oh, wait a second, I really do want to edit it, well, it's super easy. There's an edit button. But suppose you're back on the main view, on the main details tab, and you don't want the non-editable screen. You want to go straight to the editable one. Well, in that case, you don't click the name over here. You click the pencil off to the right-hand side. And then when you do that, it takes you directly to the screen where you can make the edits and you can also see tagged sources. Okay, let's talk about the brief life history. This is where if you have replaced the brief, or excuse me, not replaced, if you have written a brief life history on the details tab, then you have the option of replacing that computer generated history on the about tab with this one that you have written. So how do you do that? Well, it's just wonderfully simple. If you're at whether you're adding or whether you're editing a brief life history, you go into the screen where you can add or edit, and you've got a checkbox up here at the top. Publish this brief life history to the About page. So if you don't want that computer generated one and you want to replace it with this one that you wrote, you just click that checkbox and it's done as soon as you save this brief life history. Okay, let's talk about warnings in life sketches. So, in my experience, not very many people put warnings in life sketches, but enough people did, and I have to admit, I was one of them. Enough people did that it became an issue because a warning is not a life sketch. A life sketch is supposed to be a little bio, it's supposed to be about the person. But a lot of us that use the life sketch for warnings did it because there wasn't really a good way to warn other people about problems on a page. Sure, you could stick a note on the Collaborate tab, but in my experience, nobody looked there. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but almost nobody looked at the Collaborate tab. So nobody ever saw the warning. So I would put it in the live sketch, but that isn't what live sketches are for. So again, if any of you have been following in the Family Search community, so at community.familysearch.org, there have been some pretty intense discussions about this with people saying, yeah, but if you tell me to take the warning out of the live sketch, then I don't have any way to warn people, and I really need that. So kudos to Family Search. They responded to our requests as users to give us a way to warn other people when there are problems on a record and to warn them without sticking the warning in the live sketch. So here's how you do that. On the new page, and this is just a little side note actually. On the new page, there is now a notice that asks you, please, if you have put a warning or caution in the life history, please move it out, make it into an alert note. And you can actually close down this warning after you have made the necessary switch, or even if you haven't made the necessary switch. I have noticed that at least for now, this warning keeps coming back. So once you close it, it doesn't go away for good in my experience. My guess is that ultimately, when this stops being a problem, Family Search will probably remove this notice. That is just my speculation. But let's talk about how you can create an alert note because I think these are so cool. And I have started changing all my warnings in brief life histories over to alert notes. So the way that you do that, actually, let me back up. What you basically have to do, if you've got a note in the brief life history that you like, then instead of retyping it, I would just copy it out. So I'd open up the brief life history and I would copy out the information, maybe temporarily put it in a notepad document or a Google Doc or whatever, so that you have it there to put into the alert note. But then I delete it from the brief life history. And then this is how you create an alert note. So remember we pointed out that now on the right-hand side of the page, there is an additional section called Notes. And it is the same thing as Notes in the Collaborate tab, but it's visible on the Details page. So you click Add Note, and you get a pop-up box like this. So in the scenario that I was just describing, now I would grab that title out of my notepad document or Google Doc or whatever. I'd paste it in here. Obviously, you could just type in here. And then I would also paste the warning down here under Write Your Note. And then because I want this to show as an alert, I'm going to click the Alert Note checkbox. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And when I do that, two cool things happen. Well, one doesn't show on this page. As you would expect, once you've made a note, it shows up on the Collaborate tab. That hasn't changed. But the note also will show up here in the New Notes section on the Details page, and you now get a warning shown at the top of this page. A lot of you might remember our good buddy Samuel Hibbert from earlier webinars and classes. This poor guy has like at least 13 merges on him. He actually represents at least 5 different men who lived in different places, married different women, but most of them were named Elizabeth, which I think is why the bad merges happened. I was cleaning up this one and I had undone maybe 2 or 3 merges, and somebody came back in and re-merged the bad merges. So this poor guy is he's mangled. I'm in the middle of fixing him, but he's not fixed yet. So the fact that I created an alert note for him causes this banner to show up at the top. And it says, important research has been done. Please read these alert notes before you make changes. So I am very confident that this is going to stop more bad merges from being made on this guy before I can get him cleaned up. When you click this link, it actually pops up the alert note that I've made on the screen, just like all the other pop-ups. So it's very easy for users to see. They don't have to navigate to any place or wonder how to find the alert note. They just click this and immediately they see, please don't make changes. This poor guy's been mangled because of a bunch of bad merges. And hopefully that's going to help improve data quality in Family Tree. So there is no longer any need to put warnings in life sketches. So I strongly encourage all of us, if we do have warnings in life sketches, to move those out and turn them into alert notes. It's better for people who want to read the life sketches, real life sketches, and it's better for users who need to be warned. Okay, to wrap up today, let's talk. Oh, I forgot one thing that I need to mention. You can only have one. Let me go back actually to the alert notes. You can only designate one note as an alert note, which kind of makes sense, right? You wouldn't want 500 alert notes because that's just too much to to process and deal with. You can have as many generic notes as you want, regular notes, but you can only designate one as an alert note. If you decide you want to designate a different note as an alert note than the one you already did, you have to unclick the alert note box and then go designate the new note as an alert note. The other cool thing about this is when I get Samuel Hibbert finally all cleaned up, I'm going to come in and erase this note. I'm going to delete this note. When I do that, when I delete the alert note, this banner will disappear. So I only want it to be there as long as I need it. Okay, let's go back to memories. This page has, again, kudos to Family Search for responding to user requests and implementing some really cool new features. So again, let's compare the old page with the new one. Key features on the old page were that the page was divided into 4 sections. We had photos, documents, stories, and audio. Each one had 2 buttons for adding, so you really ended up with a total of 8 buttons every time you wanted to add a memory. Plus, people had trouble deciding, is this a document? Is this a story? What if the photo was a document or in a document? Or it just was kind of a headache for people to deal with the categorization. Also, the tiles were various sizes. Now, I admit I've got mixed feelings on this because I kind of like this layout if you're just browsing. So if you're not trying to accomplish anything like organizing the photos or whatever, and you're just kind of scrolling through like Pinterest, then it's pleasant to have them different sizes and um, it's really good. But if you're trying to work with them, and they're all different sizes, it actually ends up being a little awkward. And so that's something that's been addressed in the new layout. The other thing was a lot of users gave feedback that it was frustrating that there was no easy way to find a memory. So on this one, my grandma has like 109 memories, and there was no easy way to try and figure out, like, did I already add this memory, or where is it? Or I could have sworn I've seen that, or is it in the photo section or the document section, or you just basically had to scroll and it wasn't very efficient. And there wasn't really an easy way to sort the memories. So the new page takes care of these things. The page is no longer divided into sections, which makes adding memories a lot easier. And if you liked the fact that you could display things by sections, we're actually going to show you in a minute how you can filter by the different memory types. The tiles are all equal sizes, which again, I guess that's got its pluses and minuses, but this does, at least for me, make it a lot easier if I'm trying to, process a lot of memories or add dates to memories or that type of thing. It just, I don't know, my brain works better on if I'm doing a lot of stuff to memories to have them in neat rows. Here's another thing I really like is instead of those 8 buttons for trying to figure out which one you used for adding a memory, there's just one. That's it. You need to add a memory, you click one button. When you click the button, then you have the opportunity to say what type of memory it is. Is it an audio? Is it a photo? And you have the option of saying where you want to grab it from your device or from your gallery or from Google Photos or whatever. As I recall, it's got some different photo options there. Shoot, I should have checked that more carefully. But actually, if somebody wants to look at that right now and post it in the chat, please feel free. But I believe that you can at least add from Google Photos and possibly from other photo services, but I'm not sure. Now, this is also the really cool part. You've got the ability to search your photos using this find box up here. And you've got the ability to filter and you've got the ability to sort. So let's look at those cool new features that are going to make it easier to use memories. So in this box, memories, technically it's not really sorting, it's filtering. So memories are actually filtered as you type, and you don't have to click the filter button to do this simple filtering. So for example, in this example, that's redundant, huh? In this example, I wanted to filter to all photos that had Stonehenge in the description or the title. And actually, I didn't really say this earlier, although I have it on the screen. that when you use this box right here, it's going to search the title, the description, the file name, and the tag, but it does not search the username or the event date. I tried searching like by 1955 that I knew was there, and nothing came up. So just be aware that it's not going to search the username or the event date. So the username of the person who added the photo. Maybe in the future, Family Search will add that. Who knows? But I just typed Stonehenge in this box and look what it did. It automatically, without me doing anything but typing, now displayed only memories that had the word Stonehenge in the appropriate fields. And the way you get rid of this, like suppose now I want to go back to everything, you just erase whatever word you had put in that find box. Okay, what happens when you click filter? You get a side panel that is very similar to the other filter panels, for instance, in the change log or different places. So in the filter panel, you've got two sections. You've got a view section, and this is where you can choose to view one or more of these memory types. So suppose you just wanted photos, it defaults to all, but you would just unclick document, stories, and audio, and then only photos, only items categorized as photos would show up over here. Below the view section, you've got the sort section. And here you can sort by only one option. You notice up here you could click multiple, but down here you can't. You've just got to click one of them. But you can also choose ascending or descending. So for instance, for chronological, in other words, ordering by date, if you do it ascending, it's going to start with the oldest memories and then start displaying the newer ones as you go. If you did descending, it would start with the newer ones and move to the older ones. And then finally, when you're ready to clear all your filters, you just click Reset Filters and it restores all these options to their defaults. So this is an example that I think a lot of people will be interested in because people have been asking for it forever. So the way you can sort by date, the first important step is there's got to be a date. And it doesn't count to put the date in the title or to put the date in the description or whatever it may be. I don't even see the description on. Oh, here it is. It's almost cut off. So it doesn't count to put the date in there because that's just random. And how is Family Search going to know that you put without some fancy programming that somebody stuck a date in and not everybody did stick a date in? So it just doesn't make sense to expect Family Search to try and figure out if you put a date in the title or in the description. They have a field for it. There's a place for this. So you just put the date in the event date field and then Family Search can sort by date. So let's look at how that works. I put this date in and then I come over here and I choose filter and the panel comes up and then I choose chronological and I've chosen ascending because I want it to move from older to newer memories. Of course, I could have done the opposite, descending, going from newer to older. And notice what happened. When I did that, the dates got put on top of the memories. So you see the first one here is in 55, then we've got a range of 55 to 57, 67, but look what happened when I didn't put a date in. Well, of course, what Family Search doesn't know the date, and so they just put no date on it, and all the no dates are lumped together. And I do need to mention that you can only put an event date. You can only complete that field we looked at if you were the person that uploaded that memory. So for instance, I went to some of these that were added by some of my relatives, tried to add the date and couldn't. That's how I found that out. So I would have to text them or email them and say, hey, I was looking at that really cool memory you added. Would it be okay if you added a date? Because then we could sort all the memories by date. And I can't imagine anybody that wouldn't want to do that. So that is how you can sort by date on the memories page. So this brings us to the end of the webinar today. Thank you so much for coming. Just by way of summary, we just talked about these new items on the homepage, Tab Feed and Friends, and then these other items on the person page that I really believe are going to give us a lot of value as we work on our family history and connect with our family. So thanks for coming, you guys. And Olivia, do we have any questions that we need to address?
It looks like we do have some questions in the chat. The first one from Robert, he says, will others see all this about adding friends and posts, etc., if they're only using the old homepage?
Good question. And the answer is no. Yeah, those features are only on the new page.
Okay. The next question, Kelly asks, can you explain again how to get from the AIL, maybe that's a typo, AIL page to person page? I can't find how to go to the person page from the main page.
Okay, I believe I know what you're saying, and that I didn't actually cover. So good question. Let me see if I've still got Family Search up. I do. So if you were on the home page, hope they're not going to kick me out because a lot of times it times out. Yes, I'm still in. Didn't have to sign in again. So if you're just on this page, there's not really a direct way to navigate to somebody's person. Well, I take that back. So recent people, like suppose I want to navigate quickly to my second great grandfather, I would just click his link here. But suppose that the person I wanted to navigate wasn't here in recent people, then what I would do is I would go here to Family Tree, click that, and then I can click Person or I can click Find. So for Person, if I do that, then I get taken to the okay, let's see. Yeah, I get taken to, I believe, my default person. So this is my grandma. This is one of my grandmas. It's her, I've set her to be my default person. But the other thing I could have done is click find. So I click there. If I was on the home page again, I would click Family Tree. I would click Find. And then when I do that, I can actually search by either their name or I can find by ID. The other thing is once you get over here on the Family Tree menu, you also have the Recents menu here. And you can click that and you can easily navigate to any of the last 50 people that you have looked at. So great question. Thank you for asking. And I hope that is what you were asking. If it's not, please feel free to ask a follow-up question.
All right, next question is from Elizabeth Barrick. She says, under tools, can we print blank pedigree and FG records? We used to be able to do it.
That is a really good question. Hi, Elizabeth. By the way, Elizabeth and I are friends. Let me see. I honestly, so we've still got time, so I'm just gonna come over here and look. So let's go to my wonderful second great grandpa. I just love him. He left a whole bunch of family history books to our family. So I'm gonna go over here to the details page and go over to tools and go to print. So let's see, family group record. Elizabeth, I am not seeing a way to make that blank. When I clicked it, it just opened up a PDF with everything in it. So if anybody knows differently than that, if anybody knows how to print it blank from here, please post something in the chat. But otherwise, Elizabeth, what I found is you can Google online and there are a plethora of blank forms that you can usually get for free. So if you wanted a blank form, I would just Google it and find it that way. So thank you for asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like some people in the chat did answer Elizabeth's question.
Oh, good.
Um,
Okay.
it looks like it's under tools and then you click print and a selection comes up.
Oh, let's try that. So tools and print. And then I'm going to say family group record. I'm still not seeing an option to make it blank without all this information. And Elizabeth, if I understood your question right, you were asking about printing a blank family group record, not one with the information already in. And I do apologize if I misunderstood that. Okay, Olivia, any other questions?
Yeah, we can move on to the next one.
Okay.
Robert Lathan asks, can you have both the computer-based brief life sketch and our own written life sketch?
Yes, you can. Great question. The way that you do that is here in the life sketch. You just don't say that you want it on the person published to the about page. Let me move the, sorry, the zoom menu is blocking my view here. I got to move it out. So you notice here, I did not say that I wanted this on the about page. And so this is going to be the one that I wrote. Actually, somebody else wrote this, but this is going to be the human written one. And then when you go over to the about page, let me get out of there. It's going to be the one that Family Search generated. And in this case, they actually are kind of similar, although not identical. But yeah, you can keep those separate or you can sync them up. So great question.
Awesome. Janice asks, can other people add a note to the same person along with your note?
Yes, they can add a note, but if you've added an alert note, they cannot designate their note as an alert note. You can only have one alert note per person. So good question. Any others, Olivia?
Looks like the next question is, how do you tag a document as photos, stories, etc. in new page format?
Oh, good question. I actually didn't go into detail about that. So let's pop over to memories. And when you click this new add memories button, this is where you get to designate. And the thing is, this is a little bit different than before. You notice you've got audio and story, which is the same, but then instead of photos and documents, you've got file. So you upload just whatever it is, whether it's a JPEG or, there's, excuse me, a certain number of allowable types, like there's JPEG, there's a .bmp, there's PDF. What will happen when you upload it? And I actually just asked this of the memories quality engineer, Beth Ann Wiseman. Some of you know her. She's been on me with other memories webinars before. She says that now Family Search will do its best to decide what that file is based on the extension. So it's going to assume that a PDF is a document, for example, and it's going to assume that a JPEG is a photo because JPEG is a photographic format. If you upload something, like suppose you have a PDF of a photo. And so if there's something that is the exception, once you get inside, I just clicked, I don't know if you could tell, I clicked that photo there to get into editing. You can actually change the designation. So you come up here, and I've actually forgotten where it is for sure. I think it's under actions. Nope, I'm wrong. Shoot, does anybody know where it is? Because I know there's a place where you can say, no, this is not a photo, this is a document. Is it here? Nope, recenter. I could have sworn it was on actions. You know what, you guys, maybe if somebody knows, Beth Ann, if you're on this call, chime in, or if somebody else knows, because I did just ask Beth Ann about this like 2 days ago, and she said there was a way to designate if something's been miscategorized, there's a way to categorize it correctly. I don't think it's under share. No, it's not. So if anybody knows, please chime in with that. And otherwise, I will find out. And Olivia can actually post that information on the YouTube, in the YouTube description, once that has been added to YouTube. Does that sound good? Sound okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, awesome. So Olivia, I'm noticing there are a couple of questions in the Q&A. Do we have any others before we go on to the Q&As? Are there any others in the chat?
It looks like we just have some comments from people who say that you can find blank pedigree charts on Wiki.
Oh, perfect. That's a great place to go, the Family Search Wiki. So if anybody's not familiar with how to get to the Family Search Wiki, click search and then it's research wiki. Last option there. And yeah, that wiki is amazing. There's a ton of great information. Oh, and I see that Gordon said, please review how to add a date to a memory. So Gordon, how you had to do that, you have to be in this view. So remember, we were back on memories and it was just showing the tiles of all the memories. And then I clicked on the memory And so I got to this place where you can add information and do other things. The event date is right over here on the right-hand side. So because I didn't add this memory, I cannot edit this event date. So you see the user, the contributor is listed down here. So I'd actually have to click this contributor name, or if I knew them and I had their email, I could contact them that way. But I could send them a message here and say, hey, I noticed that you added this death certificate, but it doesn't have a date. Would you mind adding a date in the date event field? And I can't imagine that most people, I mean, I would imagine that most people would be very willing to do that. And if you did add the memory, then this event date, you can edit that. And then I did know, hope that helps, Gordon. And then I did notice that Spencer and Jan is what I'm seeing here asked, oh, it says Jane. Sorry, my screen was too narrow. Spencer and Jane said, what happened to the private memory designation? Very good question. This doesn't look like a drop down, but it is. So if you click public here, okay, again, because I didn't add this memory, it's not showing up. So the owner decided to make this public and I can't change it. But on a memory that I added, if I click this, then there's a little option to make it private. And that's how you can choose, you can make a memory you contributed to be private. Okay, Olivia, were there any other questions in the chat that we still need to address?
I don't think so. And the ones in the Q&A are from Daryl, who says that all third-party programs can print blank sheets, so no
Oh,
questions
good.
there.
Okay, awesome. And then I do see that. Oh, Kathy, thank you. Just thanks. I'm seeing a lot of friends who joined in today. Thanks, you guys. It's good to have you with us. It's good to have everybody with us. But Kathy says you can only change the memory type if you originally added it. So that's why I was expecting to see it on actions and I didn't because I didn't add this memory. But if I had added it, then I would have seen options here. If this was designated as a document and I wanted to change it to photo, I could, or vice versa. So thank you, Kathy, for pointing that out. So I'm going to pop into the Q&A really quick. And Spencer and Jane, oh, this is such a good question. Spencer and Jane have asked, if you mark a memory, if somebody marks a memory private and that person dies, the owner dies, what happens to the memory? As of right now, according to my contact at Family Search, it stays private. There is not an easy way to get that memory to be visible. Even if you contacted support, they will not make it visible because that would be a violation of privacy. When I say there's not an easy way, a convoluted way would be if you had a copy of that memory, you could upload it yourself and you would be the owner. But there's not as they haven't figured out. I mean, this whole digital world is very new to us, right? And so they haven't figured, I shouldn't say figured out, they actually have some pretty decent ideas on many websites like Facebook and so forth of how to handle digital information that somebody owned after they pass away. I suspect, I don't know this, so you guys don't say, Kathryn said Family Search is doing this, because this is not what I'm trying to say. But if I had to speculate, I would assume that at some point they would allow a user to designate what happens to their memories after they die, because other sites are doing that. So it just wouldn't surprise me at all if Family Search eventually did the same thing. So on memories in my gallery, I would just say, when I die, my sister Suzanne is going to be the owner of this memory, or whatever it might be. We'll see if Family Search does that. But for right now, if you mark an item private and you pass away, it stays private. Now, I just realized there is a little bit of an exception to that. So my mom just passed away in October, so I've had recent experience with this. When a person dies, there is usually a space, and they're in family tree, there's usually a space of time between when they pass away and when they actually are marked deceased in family tree. If they're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, then their congregation clerk, their ward clerk or their branch clerk, will mark that record deceased, usually within, a week or two of the death. But before that time, you can still sign on as that person's helper because they're not marked as deceased. So before my mom was deceased, I still could use her helper information. So I would have been able to sign in, manage her memories, all that kind of stuff. That's not a super good um, solution though, and it certainly isn't really the intent because the memories were supposed to be private. So I just mentioned that in case you're in a difficult situation and maybe your parent passed away unexpectedly and you know that they would be fine with those private memories being public, and so or maybe you're in the memory and you don't care, and for whatever. So that is a little bit of an exception, but generally, if a memory is marked private by somebody and they die, you cannot get it marked unprivate. So, and Spencer and Jane then asked a really good follow-up question. Well, then why on earth would you want to put it on as private? That is such a good question because I would say in most cases you probably don't. The only reason I could think of marking it private, and this actually has come up among, in user feedback, is that living people might be either in a photograph or they might be mentioned. Suppose that you put up a probate record or something like that, and it just for people's privacy, you did not mark it public, but you intended to mark it public after everybody in it died. So that's one option. But then again, there's the danger. None of us knows when we're going to pass away. So if you mark it private, you could potentially pass away without being able to mark it public. So yeah, there's probably some edge cases where you'd mark it private, but I would think for the most part, you really would want them to be public because otherwise why post them on a family history site where the whole purpose is to share stuff with each other. So okay, any other questions that we need to address, Olivia? Sounds good. Oh, I see Gordon just typed something. Oh, shoot. Kathy is saying that my sound didn't come through very well. I apologize on that for people that the sound wasn't good. Olivia, maybe you can boost it on the recording. And I think I did see a question. That actually reminds me. I saw a question in the chat, I believe, about how people can access this recording later. Olivia, did you already answer that in the chat?
Yes, so it'll
Okay,
just
good.
be on our YouTube page and our website by Monday.
Awesome. I just didn't want to repeat it if you'd already answered it. And then I think this might be our final question. Gordon says, can you share a memory with another user so they can make it public after you die? And Gordon, to my knowledge, that is not currently a feature that Family Search offers. You'd have to do that helper thing I described. So very quickly before that person was marked deceased, you'd have to go in as their helper and you'd have to manage the memories. So, gosh, you guys, I'm really sorry um that the sound was low for some people because I did test it with the Zoom testing. It claimed it was okay, but you never know with technology. So I do believe that Olivia will be able to make sure that that sound is decent on the recording. Yeah, I'm glad that for the people that it was good for, I'm glad, but I apologize to those of you where the sound was a little bit too soft. Oh, I see another Q&A. We're at 6:07. Olivia, is it okay if I look at that last Q&A?
Sure, let's do one more.
Awesome. So, oh, this is an excellent question too. So, A. White is asking, how do you go in as a helper? There's two ways to do that. Let me show you very quickly what those two ways are. One is you can just click Help Others. When you click that, you need certain information from the person that you want to help. In the interest of time, since we actually are over, I'm not going to go over all that information, and it's kind of self-explanatory. The username, sometimes people are puzzled about that though. The username is it's the name they sign on with, but you don't need their password. I have people keep trying to give me their password. No, they should not. They actually, in the user agreement, as I recall, they agree not to share their password. I might be wrong about that, but it's never a good idea to share your password. So if someone tries to give you their password, tell them, nope, I just need the username that you sign on with. What is the helper number? That they can actually get by clicking on their name and going to settings, as I recall, and I don't remember exactly where it is. It's not there. Let's go to account. It's not there. Where's the helper number? Anybody know where that is? Maybe it's under permissions. Ah, there it is. Helper access, allow other people to help me. So what you have to do to find, or what anybody has to do to find their helper number is click your name, go to settings, go to permissions. This one keeps changing. I could have sworn it used to be on the profile page. So, but now go to permissions, go to helper access, and then your helper number is displayed right there. So if I wanted to give permission to someone to help me, I would give them my username and I would tell them my helper number is 20205. That is using the helper option. The other way that you can do it is by adding somebody to what's called helper resources. The way you get there really quickly is you just click the question mark. You click the question mark. There we go. I had clicked it, I promise. It didn't come up. Then you go to helper resources. And when you do that, you can actually add a person to what's called the planner. And once you do that, you are able to help them. You're able to see their tree as they would see it. And so you can see down here, I've added some people that I've been helping with family history, and I don't have permission to share their stuff, so I'm not going to go in there. But just to tell you what I do when I help them is I click their name, and then it displays their view of family search the way that they would see it. So I'm able to help, look at their tree and get into their memories and all that type of stuff. So that's how you can access their memories. So Elizabeth says, do you have a handout? That is another super good question. And that I actually don't make handouts, Elizabeth, because they get out of date so dang fast. And so, but what I do is make the slide presentation available to anyone who wants it. So let me just pop the link in the chat for you. And this, of course, will only be helpful to people who are on the call today. But I'm also going to post this link to my personal website, and it's just everything's free there. This is not a for-profit. It's not any kind of selling money, whatever website, but just go to Genealogy, Goldenrod Genealogy. It's pretty bad. I can't say the name of my own website. I'm trying to hurry because I know we're over time. So if you click that link there, you get to, or you can just search Goldenrod Genealogy. Oh, wait. Okay. The link is out of date, you guys. Dang it. I will fix that on the slide deck. So sorry about that. But let's go to Goldenrod Genealogy. And then the way you get to the classes, okay, that's two. There we go. The way that you get to the recordings and the slide decks is go to resources and then choose presentations. And then that, of course, goes to the page we were already on, but I just wanted to show you how to navigate to it if you needed to. Now I got to move the Zoom menu out of the way. And then you can either just scroll down the page, you can search on the page, or if you can kind of guess at the category, like this one today was about family search, family tree, that's where I'm going to put this information. So you just click that and it would pop you to the family search, family tree section. And then these are arranged in numerical and alphabetical order. So if it starts with a number, it'll be at the beginning by number, and then it's organized in alphabetical order by the title of the presentation. So I hope that helps. And any other questions, you guys?
It doesn't look like it, so we'll go ahead and close.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you will join us for our next webinar, which is on December 15th with Michael Strauss. He'll be giving a presentation about the 1918 Spanish influenza. A recording of this webinar will be made available next week. You can view that on our YouTube channel or on our website. If you have any comments or questions, you can always email us at fhl_webinars@byu.edu or follow Facebook and Twitter. Thank you and have a wonderful week.